Nighttime workers, what's the freakiest stuff you've seen on the job? I've been a nurse for 12 years, and I spent the first 5 working nights at St. Mary's General. People always ask me why I switched to days, and I usually give them some generic answer about work-life balance. The truth is darker than that. Night shift nursing is a different world. The hospital transforms after visiting hours end. The fluorescent lights seem harsher, the hallways stretch longer, and there's this underlying tension that settles over everything like fog. But you adapt. You learn to read the signs, understand the rhythms, and most importantly, you learn to respect the 3 a.m. rule. Every veteran night nurse knows about 3 a.m. That's when people die. Not always, but often enough that we'd unconsciously hold our breath when the clock hit 2:45. Something about that hour. Maybe it's when the body's defenses are lowest. Maybe it's just coincidence, but I've seen too many codes called between 3 and 4 a.m. to believe in coincidence anymore. Mrs. Patterson was the one who really got to me though. She was 83, admitted for pneumonia, and during the day she was absolutely delightful. She'd ask about my family, compliment my scrubs, and tell me stories about her late husband Robert, sweet little grandmother with silver hair and kind eyes. The day nurses loved her. But when the sun went down, Mrs. Patterson became someone else entirely. The transformation usually started around 8 p.m. She'd get restless, start picking at her blankets, and by 9 p.m. she'd be asking where Robert was every 5 minutes. By 10 p.m., she'd be convinced we were keeping her prisoner. "You have no right to hold me here," she'd hiss, her voice completely different from the gentle tone she used during the day. "Robert is waiting for me in the car. He'll be worried." Robert had been dead for 15 years. The worst night was a Thursday in October. I was making my rounds around midnight when I heard Mrs. Patterson talking to someone in her room. Not unusual. Dementia patients often have conversations with people who aren't there. But as I got closer, I realized she was responding to someone, having an actual back-and-forth conversation. "Yes, I know it's time," she was saying, "but I don't want to go yet." Pause. "I understand, but can't you give me one more day?" Another pause. "Please, Robert, just one more day." I stood outside her door, listening to her negotiate with her dead husband. The hair on my arms was standing up. I'd heard patients talk to deceased relatives before, but never like this. Never like someone was actually answering back. I knocked softly and entered. Mrs. Patterson was sitting up in bed, staring at the corner of the room near the window. "Mrs. Patterson, are you okay?" She turned to look at me, and her eyes were completely lucid. Not the confused, frightened look she usually had during her sundown episodes. Clear and aware. "He says I have to go tonight," she said matter-of-factly, "but I told him I'm not ready." "Who says that, Mrs. Patterson?" She pointed to the empty corner. "Robert. He's been waiting so patiently, but he says the window is closing." I looked where she was pointing. Nothing there but shadows and the faint glow from the parking lot lights outside. But Mrs. Patterson was staring at that corner like she could see him clear as day. "Maybe you should try to get some sleep," I suggested. She nodded but kept glancing at the corner. "He's not happy about waiting, but he understands." I helped her lie back down, checked her vitals, and tried to shake off the chill that had settled between my shoulder blades. Just dementia, I told myself. Hallucinations were common. Nothing supernatural about it. But at 3:17 a.m., Mrs. Patterson's call light went on. I found her sitting up again, this time with a peaceful expression on her face. "He's ready now," she said when she saw me. "And so am I." She closed her eyes, took 3 gentle breaths, and was gone. No alarms, no dramatic medical emergency, no frantic attempts at resuscitation. She just left, like she'd been having a conversation about departure times, and had finally agreed on a schedule. I stood there for maybe 10 minutes, staring at her peaceful face, trying to process what I'd witnessed. In 12 years of nursing, I'd seen hundreds of deaths. Most were either sudden or came after long, difficult declines. I'd never seen someone negotiate their own departure time and then follow through so calmly. When the doctor came to pronounce her, he barely looked up from his clipboard. Time of death, 3:17 a.m. Just another 3 a.m. departure. Nothing unusual to note in the medical record. But I knew I'd witnessed something that didn't fit in any textbook. Something that made me question everything I thought I understood about death, consciousness, and what might be waiting on the other side of that final conversation. I transferred to day shift 2 months later. Some things are better left to mystery.